minutes in the afternoon. So on a high level itself, at least let me give you a brief that what are we going to cover, like say a bit of planning of Azure DevOps, talking about the version control, source control, moving down to the continuous integration, which will be your Azure pipelines, how to set up the pipelines, what are the components which are going to play a very key role within your pipeline itself. Then moving down to the security part, which is talking about the key vault, and many other services are there where we can go and keep your secrets. Secrets can be your key value pairs, which are your credentials, your connection strings, such stuff. And moving down to the release strategies, continuous deployment patterns are there. We're going to see some of the demonstrations for them, and along with that one, definitely yes, I'm going to give you some time so that you can do the labs as well also. And apart from those ones, we'll be also talking about the infrastructure as a code, maybe Microsoft, maybe not Microsoft. Getting introduced with some of the Azure tools, like say you've got a Azure Resource Manager, ARM, CLI, and other tools are there. So ARM templates are there. We are going to talk about them. Why? Because see, we are talking about automation, and into the automation itself, let's not forget the infrastructure as a core also plays a very key role. Because when it comes to the DevOps, it happens to be that we can inject and we can integrate a complete process during your DevOps cycle for your infrastructure records, so that the infrastructure can be built up, and then after your applications can be deployed. And definitely yes, there will be a small touch up towards the containers as well also, that what exactly the containers are and what is Docker. A brief about those ones. Why? Because this course is not intended to go into the deeper stage of those Dockers and Kubernetes, but at least how it's going to help us into the DevOps and how we can take up a benefit of those ones. So at least we're going to get some of those understanding. And finally, coming back into the monitoring, feedbacks, and at any stages, let's say in case if you want to go and identify the code bugs, code validations, code vulnerabilities are there. At times we are using some open licenses. So there are certain tools which we're going to integrate within our DevOps components and within our tasks, within our pipelines. So that is what we're going to understand into the last of these modules too. And by the way, it's every day around 3 o'clock, every day itself, we'll take up a short break of around 10 minutes. And yeah, that's how the plan would be. And that is for every day at 3 o'clock for 10 minutes. That is the only break which will be getting up. So plan your stuff accordingly. So thank you once again for joining up. And finally, once again, I'm sharing that link on your chat. So whoever has not marked the attendance, please. I'm sharing up the link onto the chat. So please mark your attendance by using your corporate email ID. The guidelines have been given on your email itself also. All right, so let's start right now. Thank you.
Rajesh, Sriram here.
Yes.
One question to you. So, Rajesh, as you told that this is just a basic level class, and you will not go to the advanced level of classes. So, the my intention attending this class is that I have to understand the YAML configurations, in the build and the release pipeline. Okay, so that is something which is very important for the current project what we do.
The YAML, see, basically when you go and set up the YAML itself, when you go and set up the pipelines can be set up by using the classic editor, and the pipelines can be set up by using the YAML itself also. So that's going to be a part of the discussion. And definitely, yes, I'll give you some access so that you can try a small lab for the same itself also, maybe tomorrow.
So again, will you be telling me that how to put that in a variable and call that variable from a template, things like that?
Oh yes, let's say, see, basically what happens when we will be talking about the editors, basically the classic templates are there. In those
Yep.
ones, you'll be definitely talking about what are the variables, where exactly the variables are being stored up, and how you can call those variables. And if in case if you are using the variable groups or something, you can go and integrate with the variable groups with a key vault, and you can call up with those ones too. That's what we're going to discuss.
Okay, super. So, and one thing also. So, are we pushing the code into any serverless components?
Or it can be done. Let's say, for example, like if in case you've got a containers, probably the containers can be one of the deployments, or the serverless architectures are there. Like say, function apps, basically the one on which is also being considered as a serverless. So you can try pushing into that one itself also if required.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
All right, so let's start right now. Thank you. See, right now, let's say, for example, if you are talking about the DevOps, definitely yes, the responsibilities, the working, the structure, the architecture, the components, which are going to be a part of the entire DevOps cycle would be really important, whether you're going to use up the Microsoft products, whether you're going to use up a non-Microsoft products. So there are various services, there are various components. But the question here arises, where are we going to start up from? What are the key components which are available? So definitely, yes, we will be introduced with most of the services, and among them, the Azure DevOps also comes up. So we'll be working with most of the pipelines and structures within Azure DevOps too. Although there are many other third-party tools like say you've got a Ansible, you've got a Terraform, you've got a Jenkins, depending on whether infrastructure is a code, whether the CI/CD tools are there, Team CD is there, and many other functions are there. Probably we can integrate them itself also, but the this session is to understand the entire concept. See, as if we know that, okay, see, there are two features which are coming in. Let's say, for example, the dev and the operations, right? Now, when it comes to the developers and the operations, there are too many of responsibilities. Why? Because these are working with the loops. So when you say loop, basically this is none other than your scope. And scope is none other than a boundary. The boundary within which you're working within your own responsibilities. So whether it can be an inner loop, whether it can be an outer loop. So two scopes are there. Basically, let's say, for example, in the inner loop, you will find out many developers coming in. And onto the outer loop, basically, you'll definitely come across with the operations team. Monitoring team is there. Security team is there.
क्यों नो
It's a kind request uh, to avoid any inconvenience to any other audience. I would please request each one of you to be on a mute. So definitely yes, each and every department, each and every section has got its own boundary itself. The work procedures would be the same, but the process says that how you're gonna go structure the concept. Why? Because here the most important part becomes to understand that is what is my responsibility. What am I responsible for? What task I'm going to look into. So probably in many cases, if we are aware of our own responsibility definitely is we are the ones who are going to be answerable for those tasks as well later on. Tomorrow something when you go with the developing part, a code bug remains and you release, the build happens. Who is going to be answerable for that? Them. Why? Because they were they had their responsibility itself. So at least we should be aware of what are our responsibilities and what is the responsibilities for the outer loop, which is where the operations, the deployment, monitoring, security, administration comes in. So just saying that DevOps, no. We being as a DevOps expert, now we are going to be responsible for the entire end-to-end process. End-to-end process means, see, maybe not everyone is a developer, not everyone is the operations team, not everyone is from the security team, and not everyone is from the monitoring team. But when we are designing up the cycle, when we are structuring up the cycle, it becomes important for us that which phases are going to come in between and how it's going to help us. So when we talk about the structure, where do we start up from? So before we kick on with those ones, let's understand that, see, there are various Microsoft cloud services, especially the public cloud services. You have Office 365, you have Azure environment, you have Dynamics, 365 is there. Probably over a Windows Intune. So what are these ones? These are nothing but the Microsoft cloud services. So is the DevOps being limited only just to the Microsoft cloud services? No. Why? Because tomorrow, in case if I'm doing the CI/CD mechanism, are we going to deploy to the Azure only? No. It can be AWS, it can be Google, it can be any public or a private cloud where exactly you're going to deploy. But there are some key components which are going to help you us to plan initially. And that component is none other than your, which is being referred as your identity. So when we talk about the identity itself, that who, now what exactly the identity is? Why? Because identity requires of the authentication, identity requires of an authorization. Identity needs a repository where exactly the identities are being kept up. So now if in case if I'm talking about identities and let's say for example there are many such organizations which are already using these services, maybe not all of them, maybe some of them, maybe all of them as well also. So definitely yes, they do get one of the services which is none other than your Azure Active Directory. At times like say also the organizations, they are also having their on-premises AD. Like say they have the Active Directory which is running on premises, they have Azure Active Directory running upon cloud itself also. But by the way, why I'm talking about these ones right now, its the significance is there. Why and where it's going to help us and how it's going to help us. Why? Because when you talk about the DevOps, why? Because we have got an entire project coming in. That project has got lot many components. How are you going to manage the project? Who would be responsible for what? What would be the delegation? What would be the permissions? What would be the level of an access? Where are you going to get it from? How are you going to manage them? So that means that we are ending up with none other than the identity. Maybe there might be definitely some organizations, they might not be using some of the cloud services, then what? But still you require an identity. Reason being, why? Because when we talk about the Azure DevOps, there is one of the key components which comes up at the very initial state itself, from where exactly the planning starts. And this key component is none other than your your DevOps organization. Now this, to have the DevOps organization itself, we need to sign in. And for the sign in, I need an identity. So there are two possibilities for the identities. First, it can be a simple Microsoft account, or else it can be an identity which is coming up from the Azure Active Directory, which we simply mention it as a AAD, Azure Active Directory. So if most of the organizations, if they are already using the Azure AD, we can fetch up the identities from there itself. Or by any chance, if in case if they are not having any such cloud services, or if they don't have any kind of Azure AD itself, then probably definitely I'm going to go with this approach. The challenge which you're going to face up here itself would be like, say, there are how many accounts you're going to create, how many accounts you're going to manage them. But this way, at least I can go and take a benefit of my centralized directory service. So that at least you can plan for the security, at least you can plan for the authentication, protection, governance. And definitely, yes, this Azure AD can be well integrated within your on-premises too. So you can set up a hybrid here. Reason being, and the benefit, like, okay, you can take up the same corporate accounts over the directory itself, and then after you can go and integrate them. So this DevOps organization is probably, let's say, you can use a Microsoft account, or you can also use along with the Azure AD. Although this is again a cloud service, but still it's not being integrated by default with Azure AD. It can be integrated up. So this integration that gives you the initial plan that how you're going to get it up. But because the delegation and permissions are playing a very key role at every single stage. So a good amount of a planning is required for this one. So as far as the DevOps organization is being considered up, so probably you can go with either you can go with this A or you can go with this B itself also. But how we are going to create a, how you can create up a DevOps organization. Now what exactly the DevOps organization contains? It has got various services. Which services are those ones? Let's say you have, again with this one, you structure your components within a help of what? You define up nothing but your, this is as well as a project. So the project can be here or private or public. Visibility. So for all independent projects, you're going to create a multiple projects directories. So this is as good as a repository where all your services are residing. Whether or not you're going to use those services, it depends. It's the organization decision. But still, there are various services too. Now, which services I'm talking about? Those services are nothing but you have got rules. You have got test plans. You have got repos. You have pipelines. And your Azure artifacts. Now these are the these are the services for the Azure DevOps, but it's not necessarily that I'm going to use all of these ones. Maybe I can just use it just for the pipeline purposes, for the CI/CD. Maybe the repository is coming from the Git. Maybe it's coming from the big bucket. So it's up to us. Even let's say for the boards, we can go and integrate the Jira. So services are there. but all of these services are residing within my directory itself, which is none other than my project. So at every single stage, you do require the planning for the permissions and the delegations too. That means you stuck up again with the identity. And within this one, the DevOps, see how we're going to get up the organization. Are we already having a DevOps organization by default? Probably not. So how we can create up the DevOps organization? Simply, let's say for example, if I already have what I'm mentioning up here, MA. MA is a Microsoft account, all right. So MA. So probably let's say for example, if I'm already having an MA, a Microsoft account with us, so we can sign in to the dev.azure.com. So this becomes one possibility that I can simply go and create up a DevOps organization by using up any Microsoft account. Or else another possibility becomes that you've got a Azure DevOps demo generator. So this is also one of the web service through which you can go and create up your organization, the DevOps organization. And the third possibility becomes, say for example, if most of the customers are already having the Azure subscription, maybe may not be necessary itself, it's always, but still, if in case if you've got Azure subscription, from there itself also you can go and create and you can manage your DevOps organizations too. That means that this DevOps organization can be created in various different ways. And the identity, the one which you're going to integrate would be this one. It can be any identity itself, which can be integrated with my this one, which you can use up. So most likely you will be receiving the demo code and you'll be receiving the Azure Pass, all of you, once you mark your attendance. These are the two codes which you'll be receiving up. So this is your reference material and this is your Azure Pass, which is going to give you trial access for 30 days and with $100 credit. Now say for instance, if I already have a Microsoft account and now I'm preferring to go with the DevOps organization. See, I've got one account here itself. So most likely it happens that, okay, let's say for example, dev.azure.com. Here. So probably you get a flexibility here that, okay, what kind of a name you're going to use up. So say for this is my so where exactly your projects are going to be hosted up. Let's say just a capture login. DK 6. So you came down to here itself right now. So say for example, now your DevOps organization is there and the account which is associated of that's here, the second Microsoft account. And here if you go to the organization setting, see there are various components which you can see like let's say projects. You don't have any projects right now itself. And yeah, this was the key point, identities users. So how are you going to onboard the users? Where are you going to get up those users from? Where are those users residing at? So definitely you need to some sort of an access. Although this is all being taken care of with the identity team, no doubt, but still this plays a very key role. Why? Because tomorrow you want to give some delegation. You're onboarding, you're not going to be a one-man show. It's going to be the various different teams which are going to play a very key role within your services. So this particular point, when you say add users, definitely either you can go and invite the users onto their Microsoft account email IDs, or probably you can pull out the users from the Azure AD if possible. So the preference goes, ideally the best practice as the preference goes from the Azure AD. Reason being is basically that's one of your centralized directory service. So talking about a bit of Azure AD, not going to the deeper state, but at least having some understanding that what exactly the Azure AD is and what are the key features which are available. Although going into the depth level would not be possible here, but at least we can have some understanding. So if in case if you have got Azure AD here, Azure AD comes up in various editions, by the way. These editions are nothing but like say you've got a free edition, you've got a O365 edition, apps edition is there, and you've got a premium 1 and premium 2. So most of the organizations, they opt for the premium 1 or premium 2. Why? Because you get the most of the enhanced features, like say you've got a conditional access, you've got identity protection, you've got identity governance, multi-factor authentication, advanced multi-factor authentication. So such features you can take a benefit from here itself. Why? Because in Azure AD, you can have multiple identities. And these identities are all coming up from various sources. The source can be the cloud. The source can be your guest. A guest is something where exactly we are talking about the externals. This is where we refer up the Azure AD as a B2B, business to business. So probably it might be a situation that you might need to go and invite the different users from different organizations to be onboarded within your organization. So let's say, for example, you are outsourcing your responsibilities to. So for that particular purpose, definitely is the guest. Obviously, the guest will be authenticated from that directory service where his account resides, but the authorization is going to happen from the Azure AD. But for the cloud, obviously the authentication and authorization is going to happen from here. Other than that, if in case if the organizations are well compatible and they are willing to use their on-premises IDs, on-premises accounts, so this can be your Windows Active Directory. So hybrid. So this is all the way coming up from the on-prem AD. Yeah. So we can use hybrid users. So the end users, they get a flexibility to use the same credentials if possible or if required. So the preference goes here, either P1, either P2. So most of the significant enhanced features are available in the P2. So say for example, you've got identity protection, identity governance, definitely you get up here. And if in case you are already having a P1, you can take up a benefit, like say on on-premises AD, you've got a group policies. Similarly, itself onto the Azure AD, you have got a policies, and those policies are meant to be used like CAP, conditional access policies. So this you get at least with the P1, right? So you can take up a benefit of this. Why? Because here, what are you going to define? You're going to define here all your if and then statements. So that means that you can define various conditions. Conditions can be your devices, conditions can be your IP, conditions can be your location, condition can be your user, group, or guest. Condition can be your applications. Conditions can be your platforms. So you can define various conditions, and then after based on to these when these are your conditions, right? So taking up a benefit of those ones, at least you can protect your identities. And then after you can go and define the actions. Actions can be, let's say, allow plus multi-factor authentication. So you can go and enforce them if required. Even if in case if you are not having the Azure AD, let's say many organizations, they are not having the Office 365 or many other Microsoft cloud services or public cloud services. So still then you can get up a separate directory itself also, all right? So, yeah, in these cases, now this Azure AD can be well integrated with my DevOps organization. It can be, it's not, although it's not by default, but it can be. So here itself, if you go down, here itself you get a flexibility that you can go and integrate with Azure AD. So now you can notice that, okay, we don't have any such service right now, okay. And this is again an independent account. And this account is nowhere associated with any other directory itself right now. It's just a simple Microsoft account. But possibility says that, okay, if you have it, you can go and integrate. We are going to see that. Reason being, why? Because when you go and add up a user here, at that piece of time itself, you can notice that there are because each of those such users, they need a level of an access at the initial stage, or because you are onboarding them, you are managing them. So what level of an access? Basic, stakeholder, Visual Studio. Which one you're going to pick up? So you're going to pick up these ones. So Azure DevOps access levels. So if you come down, these are the ones which are being supported up. So right now, let's say, for example, if I want to give them the access to the basic, all most features, so that they can, it's not that, okay, every single user has to be onboarded up on your DevOps organization. No, it depends who is going to be a part of that project and what responsibility is going to cater. Tomorrow, if in case if I want to go and integrate with my security team and a monitoring team itself, definitely yes, they can be a part of it. So let's not forget what you. So if in case if I'm going with the stakeholder, definitely is a partial access. But as far as the basic is being considered up, see here, because that comes under the billing.
Rajesh, this is Shishe.
Yes.
I do have a question here actually. So thing is, you are showing us the users tab and the another tab that you just showed us that is integrating with the Active Directory, right? On-prem Active Directory or our corporate Active Directory.
Okay.
So let's say in the users, right? We are creating some users here under the users tab. So where it will be storing? It will be storing in the Azure Active Directory.
No. See, right now, let me tell you one thing. As if, first of all, we don't have any Azure Active Directory,
Mm-hmm.
and my DevOps organization is not integrated with the directory itself. So, if in case if I'm going to add a user, see these users, the one which you're going to invite would be none other than they will be your Microsoft account. So for example, if you are having a Microsoft account, I can go and set up and I can invite you, and then after I can give you a level of an access. So if I'm inviting up a Microsoft account, see they are residing in their own directory service, right? And this directory service is not being maintained by the customer.
Oh,
Let's say you
oh.
are having an outlook.com, you are having an hotmail.com,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
You just create up
Mm-hmm.
an account.
Okay.
Got it?
So
You
it's
just
a
create an account.
yeah, yeah. So it will be basically of same type of account like I am individually creating with the Outlook domain or Hotmail domain, something like that.
Tomorrow, let's say, for example, I want to onboard around 20 to 25 people or 35 people who are going to be a part of my DevOps project. So I would say, okay, hey, all 30 guys, can you please create up a Microsoft account and then I'm going to invite to you? It becomes a challenge. In a sense, you cannot maintain and manage the credentials at one single place. Policy is no possible.
Right.
Getting the point?
Right.
So,
So
that on the other
Rajesh, so
just a second. I'm coming to you. Sorry for that. Otherwise, on the other side itself, probably you can go with a centralized directory service, which is your Azure AD. So yes, someone was asking. Yeah.
Rajesh, this is Prashab here. So you're saying, okay, directly for the Azure DevOps access, okay, we are integrating the AD, right?
Yeah, the Azure AD can be integrated, but it is not integrated by default.
Okay. Because see, suppose I'm working in a corporate like a corporate. So directly they will integrate with the AD only.
Obviously, yes. See, that is how the preference, that is how the recommendation is being done. Why? Because every organization's intention would be why not to use our own corporate credentials so that we can allow them to get onboarded up. That's the reason. That is the reason for which what you can do. You can see here itself is your on-prem AD. From here itself, this is one. Then you come down to the Azure AD, second, and then you go and integrate with the DevOps here. That's how you can take it up. So first of all, you need to go and set up the hybrid, all right?
Okay.
And then after this, Azure AD can be well integrated with the. So once you integrate up here, wouldn't it be beneficial for you to grab all the identities if required from the on-prem media? I can use the same, right?
Yeah.
So that's how the approach should be.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
even in case of we are integrating the Azure Active Directory with our corporate Active Directory, on-prem Active Directory, so all the credential and everything will still be on my on-prem server. Nothing will be pulling up in the Azure.
First of all, let me tell you, DevOps organization is not the identity mechanism service, all right? Identities are not going to stay there. Their identity is being stored in one of the directory service, whether it is on-prem, whether on a cloud.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So even in this integration, it will be authenticating the user against the my corporate Active Directory services only. It's not like something will be authenticated locally with the Azure Active Directory.
Let me tell you one thing. Let's say, for example, Office 365, Windows Intune, Azure. Are they storing credentials? They are storing the identities, and to store the identities, they are using the directory service at the backend, and that directory service is nothing but your Azure AD. So you can just say that the directory service is the one where the identities are being stored onto the cloud. Likewise, you got on-prem. We are utilizing them to manage the service. So this is also one of the services, right? This is also one of the services.
Right.
Correct? Likewise, you've got O365. Likewise, you've got Azure, you've got HCA, you've got a Dynamics, you've got a Windows Intune. These are services. Even the DevOps is also one of the Azure DevOps is also one of the services. Identity is its other component, right? To manage them, you require identity. Where are they stored into the directory service? Simple like that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So let me continue now.
Thank you, Raj.
Yes. So while I was here, see here itself, I'm going to show it to you that how you can manage. Otherwise, if you don't have any integration, definitely yes, we are going to invite each one of them individually. So say for example, I've got my email ID, Rajesh, or whatever the Microsoft account is, right? Say MSN, like with this one. So I'm going to invite with this. Or if in case if it's already integrated with the Azure AD, then simple. It's very simple. But here, this level of an access. But remember one, like say right now we are using the test environment, we are using the lab environment. So if you go to the billing section here, so you can assign maximum the basic user license to maximum 5 of them free. Beyond to that one, this is chargeable. So at least for the testing purposes, this is more than sufficient. All right. So it's already time to take up a short break. So it's let's be back in 10 minutes, all of us. So guys, we are going to take up a very quick short break. That break is going to be for 10 minutes, not more than that. So 3:10 p.m. we are going to resume back. All right. Thank you. All right, so I hope you guys are back.
Yes, Vijay.
Is everyone back? You can just mention under the chat, right? Just put up under the chat, yes. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Good. Thanks for the confirmation. All right. By the way, if everyone is there, let me introduce you a link. See this, I'm sharing a link itself. This link would allow you to sign in with your registered email ID. This is one of the learning enhancement tool. So whatever your registered email ID would be, so you can sign in with that one, and your password is going to be this 94436. I'm going to share them onto the chat. So with this one, at least you can also access your DMOC, your Azure Pass later. All right. So this is the link which I'm sharing with all of you onto the chat. This is the learning enhancement tool. So I'll repeat it again. Your email, your ID would be your registered email ID, and this is going to be your password. And the password is this. So this is going to be the common password for every one of you, all right? So guys, you can make a note of them, the LET panel, and probably you can just figure it out. Okay, later. All right, so let me now continue. And by the way, whoever has not marked the attendance, even the attendance link is there. So please make sure that mark your attendance, right? Then only you'll be receiving the DMOC and the Azure Pass. All right. By the way, am I audible very clearly to all of you? I saw a message that I was not audible. Am I audible clearly? All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. Good. See right now. See, this is one of my email. See, once you guys receive the Azure Pass, this is the one. Once you receive the Azure Pass, and for this, I need to guide you something. So please follow those instructions later, not now. I'm just guiding you for that how you can manage this. All right. With the Azure Pass itself, see, once you receive the Azure Pass itself, first of all, make sure that for this, I'm just guiding for this one, please. do not use your corporate email ID here. Please don't use your corporate email ID to redeem the Azure Pass. Second, for your convenience or for your easiness, you can use incognito or in private browser. All right. Prefer one of these ones just to avoid any kind of a conflict with your corporate email IDs. Just to avoid that, it's better to use incognito or in private browser. Okay. And third, you can simply visit this website. I'm going to share that one on a link on a chat. This one is the one, www.microsoft.azure.pass.com. This is the website from where you need to redeem it. But to go with this one, at least have one Microsoft account. All right. Please don't use a corporate email ID. Create up a new. So first is this, then this, then this, and then this. So if you
Rajesh, I am having my personal Outlook account. Can I use that instead of creating the new one?
yes, you can.
Thank you.
See, this is a website www.microsoftazurepass.com, and I'll just quickly sign in here. And once you sign in with your Microsoft account itself, it's going to ask you for the promo code like this. And once your promo code gets validated, this process is going to activate your Azure Pass, and you're going to get $100 credit with a 30 days trial. And you can also notice that I'm using the in private or in private browser here. So not much details. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, something like this. Okay, A, B, C, and A, C. That's it. And city, Delhi. State. All right, so that's it. So once this is done, your subscription will be ready. That's it. Once you submit. Okay. So now your account is getting ready. Okay. In the meanwhile, this is getting ready. Let's get back. We'll come back here. Okay. So I was talking about here. See the billing. So you'll be having the basic user access for 5 free of them. And at the organization level itself, you got permissions right now. Although there are several default rules. So you can notice that okay, there are some project collection admins, project collection service accounts, and valid users, and other stuff. It's possible that you can also create your own group, and you can add your own members, And then after you can go and set up the permissions according to your own needs, so you can customize them. So although there is no such kind of a thumb rule that okay, you're going to go with this one, but at least this we are doing at the, just to remind you, this is we are doing at the organization setting. All right, all of us. And as far as the billing is being considered, whether you want to keep the billing within the DevOps or each and every individual services, or you can go and set up the billing to be integrated within your with your Azure environment itself also, if possible. Okay, so see, this is ready. So once you are up, if I look into the subscription here, this is what you're going to get. Azure Pass sponsorship. This is the one which you will be getting for 30 days and $100 credit. And here also you get up a link from which you can check the balance. From here. So from here itself, you can identify, okay, you got $100 credit, one is active, and the period for which it is available. This is the link. All right. Okay, coming down here to the Azure AD. See, right now you got a subscription, right? So we got up the directory here. So that's one of the default directory, Azure AD. And this is where you can go and manage your identities, right? Although this directory is not integrated with my on-prem, we don't have any on-prem right now, but if in case still. So your corporate users, your guest users. So by any chance, if in case if you want to go and outsource and just invite some of the external users, you can go and invite them. So say for instance, you want to go and invite a user here. I'll just take one example quickly and then come back. Okay. Let's see here. So this is one of my email ID and say Rajesh. Okay, sorry. Okay. So you can invite such guests itself also, right? So definitely he's gonna receive an invitation itself, and once he accepts the invitation, he'll be onboarded up. So he'll be receiving an invitation email itself for the invite. So once he accepts, then it's okay. So this is my default directory itself, and you can notice that we are using the Azure AD free edition, this one. All right. So coming back to the here to the DevOps phase. So now you can simply go to the Azure AD. Now if in case if you have got Azure AD, I'll say connect. And right now you got one directory, and the name of that directory itself is the default directory. Although you can change it if you want, and that can be modified from here itself if you want to change the name of the directory. So from here, say whatever the name you want to keep up, right? So let's leave it as a default right now, or you can modify. The same would be coming up here. So connect. This will make you sign out and sign in once. Okay, in the meantime this is happening, I'm going to go and create a user here very quickly itself. One user is more than sufficient for the testing. And let's say I'm going to create a user here. Say Sam. or you can, let's see, auto password. We don't require the password right now. So once you integrate your directory service, you'll be signed out, and you just need to sign in very quickly itself. That's it. See, once you've been connected up, all right. Now if I go to the users here, now you can notice that, okay, I'll search, I'll say add a user, and now I can just look for the same user, the one which I created up in the Azure AD. So I will be able to look into the same. So that's how you can take up a benefit of your Azure AD, right? And if the Azure AD is already set it up as a hybrid with the on-prem, you can pull out those on-prem IDs also. So it becomes quite convenient for us to use the same corporate identities to be onboarded up. Let's say this, and here, say basic access. So that's how you can manage. So that was how, like, so you can onboard them up, all right?
So Rajesh, hello.
Yes.
So what is the difference, like users, like basic, stakeholder? What is the difference in it?
Your voice is not clear. Can you just come closer to the mic and speak a bit louder?
Yeah. Just I am asking that when you add users, there are three types of user: basic, stakeholder.
No, they are not the three different types of users. Please, these are the different access levels which you're providing up, right? With a different level of an access. This I showed you earlier. That this is the one. See. All right. So I'm giving them the basic access right now.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Okay. All right. So I'm giving this one. So that's how you can manage either. So right now you're here. All right. So let's now continue and try to understand the components which are going to be a part of it.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Rajesh. Instead of if I want to add that an email address that is not in the Active Directory, that I need to send to that email that what who am I want to add instead of Azure Directory.
You can go and invite them, right? This one.
Okay, that means that here we will invite the user to this Active Directory and we can sync it in the DevOps, right?
Every organization has got the guest users and the contractors and other stuff. So you're going to invite them. Why? Because you're not maintaining their credentials. You're just onboarding them. This is where the B2B comes up. All right.
Okay. I think instead of not calling this thing, we can use in the same in the DevOps itself, right?
Yes, you can. You can directly invite from there itself also. That's possible.
Okay.
But doing with this way, at least you can you're adhering to the policies of the Azure AD. You can enforce the identity protection, identity governance policies, multi-factor authentication, conditional access policies onto the guest right away within that. That's the benefit. Otherwise, I would have invited up the user directly within from here itself, right? So if I go down here, I can say invite from here itself also. Just adding up an invite, they won't be added to the Azure AD minded. They are okay. So you're inviting them separately. So you don't have a much control. It's better to go with this one. This approach is
Okay. If you're having like 100 users that we need to add these 100 users manually,
you can,
or we need to.